Practicing meditation can often seem like a struggle, a very frustrating process. That struggle is between what we call magga, the path, so cultivating the factors of the path that lead to clear knowledge and vision of the way things are, which leads to the end of suffering. And then delusion, which doesn't lead to the end of suffering. It leads to more craving, clinging, and suffering. So the path are all those different wholesome qualities that we need to practice and develop. Sila, samadhi, panya, right effort, right mindfulness, right samadhi, and then wisdom. Clear knowledge and vision of the way things are. And we have to keep making effort in our practice to bring up the qualities of the path, to bring the mind to this place where it's still, clear, peaceful, so that we can reflect on and contemplate our own body and mind and see it from a place of wisdom. When we're not putting effort into cultivating mindfulness, clear comprehension, states of samadhi are not arising, clear knowledge and vision of the way things are is not arising, then delusion is winning the struggle. Delusion comes from unawareness, ignorance. The path is what pulls the mind out of that, breaks through delusion. So wisdom and clear knowledge of and vision of the way things are brightens the mind, clearing away the mental defilements which obscure the mind. Ajahn Kalyano used to say, if we're suffering, it's because we're thinking wrongly. And as we're practicing meditation, you can see when mindfulness, clear comprehension slips away, we get caught into wrong thinking or defiled thinking that doesn't calm the mind down, it doesn't resolve our doubts, it just leads to more restless proliferation. But we have to accept, as we practice meditation, there's this back and forth part of the struggle. We have periods where mindfulness is stronger. We can direct it to the object. And we might experience some brief moments or longer moments of calm, samadhi. But then we fall back into periods of no samadhi, not much mindfulness, and a lot of mental proliferation. So we have to accept sometimes we're peaceful, sometimes we're not. Sometimes our mind is able to overcome and let go of the 5 hindrances: sense desire, ill will, sloth, torpor, drowsiness, restlessness, agitation, and doubt. These are the 5 hindrances that block or obstruct the mind from developing in a good way, from calming down, from seeing the Dhamma. And sometimes the hindrances are on top. We have to accept that as we meditate. That our task is to work through those hindrances, to abandon them, to see them, know them, abandon them. Because there's 5 of them, and they can alternate, and the struggle can get quite hard. Like 5 different people attacking you at one time, one after another. So there are those periods where the hindrances are on top, we're not peaceful, and we have to accept that. We have to rely on a lot of patient endurance, effort during that period. We may have to fall back on our sila. As we know, sometimes our mind there's not much mindfulness. Attachments, anger, worry, coming up. But we rely on our sila to maintain our composure and our restraint. And we get a certain amount of happiness from that kind of self-control. The worst excesses of the hindrances are kept in check. So we don't bother anyone else with our hindrances, even though they're still present within our mind. We keep them under check because of the practice of sila, the precepts. And as we practice the precepts diligently, sincerely, then our mindfulness comes back up again. We can see the defiling nature of the hindrances. We can see their impermanent nature and begin to let them go. So as we come back to put effort into bringing up mindfulness directed to our meditation object, the breath, we can see the value of sila. It's like a framework that protects us during the periods when the mind isn't peaceful. It stops us making a lot of unwholesome karma, at least through our speech, our actions. And this provides the footing for developing sati and then samadhi, getting back on top of the hindrances and abandoning them. Ajahn Chah used to say the practice of precepts, sila, is like the coconut husk around the coconut. What you want is to eat coconut flesh and drink the coconut milk at the center of the coconut. It's like what you want is samadhi and insight to free your mind from mental defilements. But during the periods where mindfulness is weak, wisdom is weak, we have the protection of the precepts, which we hold on to, and they give us this outer protection like the husk of the coconut. And some people doubt what's the purpose or the value of precepts. We want the Dhamma, we want the truth inside. Well, until you've realized the truth on the inside, you need that protection. It may be cumbersome, like precepts are cumbersome. You have to remember them, you have to follow them when you have different unwholesome tendencies coming up. They're like the coconut husk. They're heavy, they're cumbersome, and you don't really want them. What you want is calm and insight on the inside. But the precepts perform their role. They protect the mind from getting too bashed. When we don't even have precepts, then we create so much negative karma, the mind is not peaceful at all, and often is regressing, going backwards, being hurt. So we rely on the precepts to help bring up a sense of ease and happiness, even if on the inside our mind is not yet peaceful. And then we put effort into developing mindfulness, particularly at these times when we're on retreat, practicing sitting and walking meditation. We are practicing most intensely. We have time available to really bring up mindfulness and clear comprehension and effort directed to the breath, and work at that, getting to know the breath. And as we get to know the breath, maintain mindfulness with the breath, then the hindrances start to lose their power over the mind. And we can see that struggle, even though it's hard, it's worthwhile. And the rewards of that struggle are that the mind calms down. As mindfulness is more continuous, the mind becomes more steady, less agitated, more wholesome states of mind, skillful states of mind arise. And wholesome states of mind bring with them a brightness, a steadiness, freedom from agitation, the opposite of the hindrances, which just agitate the mind, disturb the mind, make us feel uncomfortable inside. The path factors we develop, mindfulness, effort, and these have the opposite effect. They calm and mind, steady the mind, they're bright, they're peaceful. So as we keep putting effort into being mindful of the in-breath, the out-breath, letting go of the hindrances, we can experience states of calm, samadhi. And samadhi has its different factors, component parts. There's the putting attention on the object, lifting the mind up to its meditation object, the breath, vitakka. Then sustaining attention on the breath, vichara. So we can examine the breath, the qualities, the characteristics of the breath. We stay with the breath rather than wandering off through the hindrances. When you have vitakka and vichara, the mind is not sleepy, it's not doubting. You're putting effort into bringing up mindfulness, knowing the breath. So the mind is not sleepy at that time, and it's not doubting. If you were doubting, you wouldn't be doing it. Doubts may be lingering in the back of your consciousness and emerge occasionally, but you must have been able to overcome doubt to a certain amount if you're sticking with the breath. And when you know the breath, you're not asleep. So vitakka, vichara, they help to dispel doubts and sleepiness through our own effort. And because of that, we feel calm in body and mind, and rapture can arise, piti. Rapture arises, it's quality of enthusiasm. We're interested, we're enthusiastic to watch the breath. The breath has become interesting to the mind. It becomes enjoyable to stay with the breath, more enjoyable than following the hindrances. So particularly with the arising of rapture, piti, then we are no longer caught into ill will at that moment, at that time. It's a direct opposite of ill will. We feel not bored, not irritated, because the mind is now directed to the breath and enjoying the breath, feeling calm, feeling interested in the breath. And that's the result of our own effort, putting effort into bringing up mindfulness directed to the breath and letting go of the hindrances. And as piti arises, it can manifest in many ways. We can have tears form in our eyes, hair stand on end, waves of rapture coming up and down the body, which can even make the body seem to move. Rapture, piti, manifests differently for different people. As the mind becomes more wholesome, it appreciates more what goodness is, what a good thought is, what a state of peace, happiness is like. Maybe just recollecting good actions, good deeds we've done in the past, recollecting good things such as the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, this all can bring piti up. Piti makes the mind feel very light, and the body feels light. The body can feel like it's floating. As the mind becomes still, rapture arises, the body seems to disappear even, either parts of the body or the whole body. So all that's left is just the mind that knows. Sometimes the body seems to float away or expand beyond the constraints of its own frame of skin and bones. So your body can feel like it's filling the whole meditation hall or expanding out beyond any building. So piti has this, manifests in these different ways. Can be even a little bit disturbing in a good way, a subtle way, because it's new and interesting to us. Can distract us, so we have to be careful there not to let the different kinds of piti distract us from our main task, which is maintain mindful awareness of the in-breath and the out-breath. So if piti arises, just know it, but don't grasp hold of it. Don't attach to it. As we continue to put effort into being mindful of the breath, the in-breath, the out-breath, then sukha will also arise. The inner happiness, contentment of the mind that doesn't want anything else to be happy. Because attention is turned inwards to the breath and the mind is satisfied, feels full. Piti makes us feel full, just like eating food makes us feel full when we're hungry. Piti makes the mind feel full, so sukha can arise. This inner, profound sense of contentment. We don't want anything else at that time to be happy. The mind is happy within itself. So this is what counters the restlessness and agitation of mind. The random thoughts, the distracting thoughts, the worries about the future, the worries about what's happened in the past, all that settles. The mind is settling down into the present moment. We feel still, calm, happy within ourselves, and we don't need anything else to provide happiness for us at that time. And this provides a cause for one-pointedness. If the mind is enjoying the meditation, it's happy, then it will agree with itself to settle down and become still. Doesn't need anything else. But this requires a refinement of mindfulness, effort, to keep the mind with the breath, not to waver, not to get caught into the other hindrances. And one-pointedness, or ekaggata, is the first kind of real equanimity we experience. The mind is unwavering, it's in the middle, in the center of experience, but not shaken or wavering by experience. So this is why one-pointedness helps us to let go of sense desire. the last hindrance you'll let go of in developing samadhi. Sense desire is desire to see, hear, taste, smell, touch, and memories based on past sense experience. And these can easily overwhelm the mind. You remember some very pleasurable experience from the past, or the desire to hear a sound. This pulls the mind away from the breath immediately. It's a very strong, powerful conditioning factor in our life, sense desire. But one-pointedness counters that. The mind is happy with the breath, focused, turned to the breath. So the other senses are no longer needed. We can let go of sense desire. So these are the 5 factors of samadhi that counter the 5 hindrances. And as we practice, the hindrances will be around a lot of the time because they're very deluding and they feed delusion. They unsteady us, disturb us, they rattle us. But through practice we can calm the mind, settle the mind. And you might experience moments where samadhi arises. Mind and body are bright, feeling very at ease. Attention is not disturbed, it's on the breath. The momentary samadhi we call khanika samadhi, where all the factors of samadhi arise together. The mind is calm, still, and in a good place to know experience. And the reason wisdom can arise, insight can arise, is because the hindrances have gone quiet and the mind is still, knowing its experience, knowing itself, knowing the breath from moment to moment, at least for a period of time. It's let go of the world and letting go of the hindrances. And it's in the best state. The qualities of the mind are there, so it's in the best state to see the truth, true nature of phenomena, to have clear knowledge and vision of the way things are, meaning it's in the best position to contemplate, to see form as impermanent, not self, feeling as impermanent, not self, perception as impermanent, not self, mental formations, impermanent, not self, sense consciousness, impermanent, not self, as we just chanted. When mindfulness is present, samadhi is present, the mind is in a wholesome state, ready and suitable for contemplation. Because the mind is quiet and calm, content, then it can see feeling as feeling rather than as a self. Pleasant feelings arising associated with a state of samadhi can be observed, but you cut out the mind that is grasping onto those feelings as self, just knowing the pleasure that comes with meditation. But those pleasant feelings that arise with samadhi, they also are impermanent, not self. They arise, they pass away, they fade. So to know that. When they fade, then maybe painful feelings start to emerge in our experience. These will normally promote restless agitation, a reaction, aversion, dislike, or mental agitation in reaction to a painful feeling. But if we are maintaining mindfulness as the painful feeling arises, we can contemplate it again as impermanent, not self, and not let the mind go into a lot of mental proliferation. Our aim is to maintain mindfulness So if samadhi is brief, momentary, then as the mind slips back from samadhi, then pleasant and unpleasant experiences will arise. But our aim is to maintain mindfulness, contemplate them, see them as impermanent, as not self. There you can see the benefits. The deeper, the stronger the state of samadhi, the longer lasting the state of samadhi, the brighter the mind, the clearer the insight will be. If the mind only experiences samadhi temporarily, briefly, withdraws, then the hindrances can re-emerge very quickly, easily overcome us again. But through experience in the practice of meditation, our mindfulness, our effort can bring the mind to experience deeper states of stillness, longer lasting states of samadhi, which provides a firmer foundation for contemplation. Ajahn Chah used to say it's one thing to develop mindfulness directed to the breath, to meditate, attain a state of calm, samadhi. It's one thing. But then to maintain mindfulness once you've attained samadhi is another. It's even more of a challenge, more difficult. So as we know, we put effort into our morning meditation, calm the mind, direct it to the breath, let go of the hindrances maybe, experience some state of cool, calm happiness, and we can see thoughts arising pass away perhaps. But then as we finish this meditation session, we get up and walk away, how quickly all that mindfulness slips away and different thoughts and moods start to take over the mind. So the challenge is to maintain that mindfulness more continuously, longer, look after it. That's why on retreat we tend to get deeper into our meditation, because we are doing sitting and walking meditation through the day. We keep returning to the presence of mindfulness, the mind in the present moment, not getting lost or deluded, sticking with the breath or sticking with the walking meditation object. So people tend to experience more samadhi on retreats, and this can be the foundation for insight, seeing their own five khandhas, form, feeling, perception, mental formation, sense consciousness, as impermanent phenomena rather than grasping at everything as self. So we say there's the experience of the empty, spacious mind of samadhi, which is one thing. The mind has dropped the hindrances, it's at peace within itself, it's happy, it's empty of self, empty of attachment, temporarily. But then we have to contemplate, use the energy, the brightness, the stillness of samadhi to contemplate, develop insight, which brings the mind to an even deeper, more profound experience of emptiness, where we see these five khandhas as empty of self. They're a process of cause and effect, arising, passing away in our experience, but the mind, through the presence of wisdom, doesn't create self out of form, feeling, perceptions, mental formations, sense consciousness. So little by little, as we practice meditation, our sila, our samadhi, our panya is growing, deepening through experience. And we have the opportunity to really let go of the causes of suffering. Think less wrong thoughts, to get less deluded by our experience of this body and mind, by the world, to be with mindfulness and wisdom more and delusion less, to use the khandhas as a vehicle for understanding the truth, rather than being a victim of our own body and mind and always attaching and getting caught up into stress and suffering. And this is the goal that we are aiming for, to free the mind from delusion, from stress, from suffering, to experience true peace and happiness on the inside. So we have a period now for more silent meditation. You can carry on practicing until you hear the bell.